Noah Carter never believed in ghost stories. He was 28 years old, a freelance videographer, and the kind of person who made money exposing fake hauntings on the internet. His channel had grown quickly because he approached every supernatural claim with skepticism. Hidden wires, edited footage, strange sounds caused by old pipes. He always found an explanation. That confidence was exactly why he accepted the email. The message arrived at 2:17 a.m. There was no greeting, no introduction, only a few sentences. If you want a story nobody has ever told, drive to mile 73 on Route 9 in Montana. Stay after midnight. Listen carefully. You will hear your own voice calling from the forest. Do not answer it. At the bottom was a blurry photograph. The image showed an empty highway cutting through a massive pine forest. On the right side stood a rusted road marker. Noah almost deleted the email. Almost. But curiosity had always been stronger than common sense. 3 weeks later, he was driving through Montana. The area around mile 73 was exactly as lonely as the photograph suggested. Mountains surrounded the highway. Dark forests stretched endlessly in every direction. No houses, no gas stations, no signs of civilization, just trees. Thousands and thousands of trees. The nearest town was nearly 40 miles away. When Noah arrived, the sun was beginning to set. He parked near the old road marker and stepped out. Cold air immediately wrapped around him. The forest felt strangely silent. No birds, no insects, nothing. Only wind moving through distant branches. He set up several cameras around the area. One pointed toward the road, one faced the forest, another remained inside his vehicle. Standard procedure. If someone tried to prank him, he would catch them from multiple angles. As darkness approached, Noah cooked a simple meal beside his SUV and reviewed his equipment. Everything worked perfectly. At 11:48 p.m., he started recording. The highway was empty. No headlights appeared in either direction. The world seemed abandoned. Midnight arrived. Nothing happened. Noah sighed. Another fake story. Another waste of time. He was preparing to stop recording when something changed. The temperature dropped suddenly. Not gradually, instantly. His breath became visible. A chill crawled across his skin. Then he heard it. A voice, very faint, far inside the forest. Noah froze. The voice sounded familiar, uncomfortably familiar. He listened harder. The sound came again. Noah. His stomach tightened. The voice was his own. Not similar, not close, exactly his. Noah. The call echoed through the darkness, somewhere among the trees. His pulse accelerated. A speaker? A recording? Someone playing tricks? He grabbed a flashlight and moved closer to the forest edge. The voice returned. Noah. This time it sounded slightly nearer. The sound emerged from deep within the trees. His own voice, speaking his own name. Every instinct told him something was wrong. The email's warning surfaced in his memory. Do not answer it. He laughed nervously. The warning itself was probably part of the prank. Still, he remained silent. For several minutes the voice continued calling, always from the darkness, always sounding exactly like him. Then it stopped. Just like that. Silence returned. Noah waited. Nothing else happened. A.M. he packed his equipment and drove away. The experience was strange, but strange did not mean supernatural. Someone could have hidden speakers among the trees. Someone could have recorded his voice from online videos. There had to be an explanation. There was always an explanation. At least that was what Noah believed, until he reviewed the footage. The next morning he rented a motel room in a nearby town and began checking the recordings. Everything appeared normal at first. Then he reached the moment when the voice started calling. His expression changed. The audio captured the voice clearly. That wasn't the problem. The problem was what happened a few seconds before it appeared. Every camera had recorded the same thing. For approximately 3 seconds, the forest disappeared. Noah stared at the screen. The footage showed trees one moment, then complete darkness. Not black video, actual darkness. As if the forest itself ceased to exist. Then everything returned. 3 seconds. Exactly 3. The timestamps confirmed it. All cameras, all angles, 3 missing seconds. Noah checked the files repeatedly. No corruption, no editing, no technical malfunction. He couldn't explain it. For the first time in years, he had encountered something that didn't make sense. That should have been the end of the story. Instead, it became the beginning. Because that night, Noah received another email. You heard him. Now he knows your name. The sender remained anonymous. Attached was another photograph. Noah felt cold. The image showed his motel room, taken from outside the window. The photograph had clearly been captured only hours earlier. Someone had been watching him. Noah immediately checked outside. Nobody was there. The parking lot sat empty beneath the evening sky. He contacted local police. They took a report. Unfortunately, the photograph wasn't enough to identify anyone. Noah considered leaving Montana, yet something kept pulling him back. The footage, the missing seconds, the impossible voice. He needed answers. The next evening, he returned to mile 73. This time, he arrived before sunset. He planned to explore deeper into the forest. If speakers existed, he would find them. If pranksters were hiding nearby, he would catch them. Armed with cameras, lights, GPS equipment, and enough batteries for 2 days, Noah entered the trees. The forest swallowed him almost immediately. Dense pine branches blocked much of the sunlight. The deeper he traveled, the darker everything became. After an hour, he discovered something unexpected. An old trail, nearly invisible, overgrown by decades of neglect. Curious, Noah followed it. The path twisted through the forest for another mile, before ending abruptly. At least it appeared to end. Then Noah noticed a structure ahead. A building, hidden among the trees. His heart raced. The structure looked ancient. Weathered wood, broken windows, collapsed sections of roof. Nature had nearly consumed it. Noah approached carefully. A faded sign hung above the entrance. Most letters were gone. Only a few remained visible. River Pines Children's Home. Noah frowned. An orphanage? Out here? He stepped inside. Dust covered everything. Rotting furniture filled several rooms. Broken toys littered the floor. The building felt abandoned for many decades. Yet something seemed wrong. The dust wasn't evenly distributed. Certain areas looked disturbed, as if people had walked through recently. Noah began filming. The deeper he explored, the stranger things became. Children's drawings covered some walls, hundreds of them. Every drawing depicted the same figure. A tall man, extremely thin, long arms, no face, only darkness where a face should be. The drawings varied in age and style, but the figure remained identical. Noah moved into another room. His flashlight illuminated dozens of names carved into the walls. Children's names, some dated back nearly 80 years. One carving stood out, "Help him find his face." Noah felt uneasy. The building suddenly seemed colder, the air heavier. His flashlight flickered, once, twice, then stabilized. He continued exploring. At the end of a hallway, he found a locked metal door. Unlike everything else in the building, the door appeared relatively modern. Someone had installed it decades after construction. A thick chain secured the entrance. Noah examined it. The metal looked old, but intact. Whatever lay behind the door had been intentionally sealed. He pointed his camera toward the lock. Then he heard footsteps, directly above him. Noah froze. The building had only one upper floor, and according to his earlier inspection, part of it had collapsed. No one should have been up there. The footsteps continued, slow, measured, heavy, walking across the ceiling. Noah called out, Hello? The footsteps stopped. Silence returned. Noah listened. Nothing. Perhaps an animal. Deer, a raccoon, something logical. Yet the sounds had clearly resembled human footsteps. He slowly climbed the staircase. The wooden steps groaned beneath his weight. At the top he found an empty hallway. No people, no animals, no movement. Every room stood abandoned. The footsteps had vanished. Noah searched each room individually. The final room sat at the end of the hall. Its door remained closed. As he approached, a terrible smell reached him. Rot, decay, something old, very old. He pushed the door open. The room was empty, mostly, except for a single object, a chair, positioned in the center, facing the wall. Nothing else, just a chair. Noah stepped closer. A chill traveled through his body. There were deep scratches on the floor, thousands of them, all surrounding the chair, as if something had repeatedly dragged itself around it, circling endlessly, year after year. Noah's flashlight suddenly died. Darkness swallowed the room. His heart hammered. He reached for a spare light. Before turning it on, he heard breathing, not his own, someone else's, standing directly behind him. Noah spun around. The room remained completely dark. The breathing continued, slow, wet, close enough to touch. His hands trembled as he activated the backup flashlight. The beam illuminated the room instantly. Nobody stood there. The breathing stopped, gone, as though it had never existed. Noah hurried downstairs. His confidence was fading. The orphanage felt wrong. Every instinct screamed at him to leave. But before he exited the building, he noticed something hidden beneath a collapsed desk. A notebook, old, covered in dust. He picked it up. Most pages had deteriorated. Only fragments remained readable. Several entries described strange events. Children hearing voices at night, missing time, nightmares involving a faceless man in the woods. One final entry captured Noah's attention. August 17, 1978. We have lost another child. The voice called him into the forest. We found his footprints leading north. Then they stopped. No body, no blood, nothing. The Echo Man has taken another one. Noah stared at the words. Echo Man. A ridiculous name. Yet it matched the email, the voice, the warning. Something connected all of this. The sun had already begun setting. Darkness approached quickly. Noah left the orphanage and started toward his vehicle. The forest seemed different now, more oppressive, as if unseen eyes followed him. Halfway back, he noticed footprints. Fresh footprints, human, pressed into the mud. They hadn't been there earlier. Noah crouched down. The prints were unusual. Bare feet, no shoes, no socks, just human feet. The trail emerged from deeper in the forest, crossed directly in front of him, then disappeared among the trees. He examined them carefully. The impressions appeared adult-sized, but something about them felt wrong. The spacing, the shape, almost human, not entirely. A sudden crack echoed nearby. Noah looked up. A figure stood between two distant trees, watching him. Tall, extremely tall, at least 7 feet, maybe more, too far away to see details. Noah raised his camera. The figure moved, not away, toward him. One step, then another. Its movements looked unnatural, jerky, broken, like a puppet controlled by invisible strings. Fear exploded through Noah. He backed away. The figure continued approaching, slowly, silently. Then his camera screen turned black. Every electronic device he carried shut down simultaneously. Camera, GPS, phone, flashlights, all dead. The forest became silent, completely silent. No wind, no birds, no insects, nothing. Then he heard it, directly behind him. Noah, his own voice, whispering, close to his ear. Noah spun around. Nobody was there. When he looked forward again, the tall figure had vanished. The trees stood empty. Darkness spread across the forest. The last rays of sunlight disappeared. Night had arrived. And somewhere among the endless trees, something wearing his voice had begun to laugh. Noah didn't remember running at first. One moment he was standing in the forest, surrounded by total silence. The next, his lungs were burning, his boots slamming against uneven ground, branches whipping his face as he pushed deeper into the darkness. Everything behind him felt wrong. Not just dangerous, wrong in a way his mind couldn't fully process. His devices were dead. His voice had been used against him. And something tall, something that had learned his name, had been standing between the trees. He didn't stop running until his legs betrayed him. Noah collapsed near the base of a fallen pine, gasping for air. His chest heaved. His hands shook uncontrollably. He forced himself to stay quiet, listening. The forest did not respond. No wind, no insects, no distant animal calls. It was as if the entire world had been muted. Then, softly, very softly, Noah. He froze. The voice was faint, drifting through the trees like smoke. It was his voice again. But this time it wasn't calling from one direction. It came from everywhere at once. Noah turned his head slowly, scanning the darkness. Nothing visible, only black trunks and endless shadows. His mind screamed at him to move, but his body refused. Every muscle felt heavy, as if the forest itself had increased gravity around him. Then the whisper came again, closer. Noah. He shut his eyes. This is not real, he told himself. Sound carries weird in forests. Echoes. Recording playback. Anything but this. But even his thoughts didn't feel secure anymore, because something inside him quietly answered back. You heard it too. His eyes snapped open. No, he whispered aloud, immediately regretting it. The moment his voice left his mouth, the forest reacted. Every direction answered it. Noah, Noah, Noah. A chorus now. Not loud, not aggressive, patient, like something practicing how to wear his identity correctly. He stumbled backward, trying to stand, but his foot caught on a root and he fell again. Pain shot through his ankle. He cursed under his breath and forced himself upright anyway. He needed the road. He needed mile 73. He needed anything that wasn't this place. But when he turned, the forest behind him didn't look familiar. The trail was gone. The direction of the highway was gone. Only trees remained, identical in every direction. Noah spun in a slow circle, trying to orient himself. Impossible. He had only walked maybe a mile into the forest. He should have been able to find his way back easily. Yet every path looked the same. Every tree felt slightly misplaced, like the forest had been rotated while he wasn't looking. Then he noticed something new. Carvings on the bark of a nearby tree. Fresh scratches, not old marks, recent. He stepped closer, flashlight still dead in his hand, relying on faint moonlight filtering through the canopy. The carving was simple. Just one word. Noah. His throat tightened. He moved to another tree. Another carving. Noah, Noah, Noah. Like someone had pressed his name into the forest repeatedly until the wood memorized it. He backed away. And then he saw footprints again. Bare feet. Walking in a slow circle around him. Not approaching. Not leaving. Circling. The same pattern he had seen inside the orphanage. Noah turned in place, trying to track them, but the prints were already fading, as if the ground itself refused to keep them. A branch snapped behind him. He whipped around. Nothing. But the silence had changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was attentive, like something had opened its eyes in the dark, and was now focusing entirely on him. Noah didn't know how long he wandered. Time stopped behaving normally after that. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like seconds, collapsing into each other. At one point, he swore he saw the highway through the trees. He ran toward it. But when he reached the opening, there was only more forest. Same trees, same darkness, same suffocating silence. Then he heard something worse than the voice. A recording. Faint, distant, static mixed with his own voice, speaking words he didn't remember saying. He followed it like a fool, because sound was direction. Sound meant escape. The audio grew clearer the deeper he went. Noah, don't answer. Noah, it knows you now. Noah stopped abruptly. That wasn't just his voice. It was layered. Multiple versions of him speaking at once. Older, younger, distorted, broken. As if different versions of Noah had been recorded across different moments and stitched together. The sound came from a clearing ahead. He stepped into it and immediately regretted it. The clearing was not natural. It was too perfect. A circular gap in the forest, as if something had pressed the trees outward. In the center stood an old tape recorder, black, covered in dirt, still running. The tape reel spun slowly. Click, click, click. Noah approached cautiously. His instincts screamed at him not to touch it, but curiosity was no longer something he controlled. He pressed stop. Silence returned instantly. Then, the forest spoke again. Not through sound, through the recorder, even though it was off. Noah. He stumbled backward. The tape recorder had not turned itself on. It had spoken while stopped. A voice emerged again, not from the device, from behind him. Close, too close. Noah didn't turn immediately. His body refused, because deep down he already knew what he would see. Still, he forced himself to look. Nothing stood there, but the air felt occupied, compressed, like something massive was standing inches away, taking up space without needing shape. Then the voice came again, right beside his ear. You came back. Noah spun wildly, swinging his fist through empty air. Nothing touched him, but something laughed. Soft, broken, almost pleased. And then, the forest shifted. Not visually, structurally. Trees changed positions. The clearing warped. The tape recorder disappeared entirely. And suddenly, Noah was standing on the roadside again. Mile 73. His SUV parked exactly where he left it. Cameras still mounted. Sky dark. Wind normal. Insects alive again. The world had rebooted. Noah stood frozen, unable to understand what he was seeing. He walked slowly toward his vehicle. Everything looked untouched. No disturbance. No sign of struggle. As if the forest incident had never happened. He opened the driver's door, sat down. His hands still trembled. He stared into the rearview mirror. His face looked normal, too normal, like his expression didn't belong to what he had just experienced. Then he noticed something on the dashboard, a small audio file notification. His recording system had turned back on, without him touching it. He hesitated, then pressed play. Static filled the car. Then his voice, Noah's voice, but not from the present, older, tired, panicked. If you are hearing this, don't go to mile 73 again. It doesn't end. It learns faster every time you return. You already heard it once. That means it already has a piece of you. Noah's breath stopped. He hadn't recorded this message. He was hearing himself warn himself from a future that hadn't happened yet. The audio continued. It uses voices because it cannot create its own. It copies what it hears until it becomes believable. It started in the orphanage, but it isn't there anymore. It is attached to you now. Noah turned off the playback. His hand slammed the button harder than necessary. Silence returned inside the car, but only inside the car. Outside, the forest had changed again. He looked up slowly. Through the windshield, the trees were gone. In their place stood dozens of silhouettes, tall, still, watching. Not because he was frozen, because something inside him had started to feel familiar about them, like recognition, like memory. Then one of them tilted its head and spoke in his voice again. "We are not inside the forest anymore. We are inside you." The windshield cracked, not from impact, from pressure, as if something unseen had leaned too close to the glass. Noah screamed and started the engine. The SUV roared to life instantly. He slammed it into drive and sped forward down the highway. But the road ahead did not behave normally. It stretched, not physically in space, but visually, like distance itself was increasing to keep him trapped. Mile 73 sign passed, then passed again, then again. He was driving forward but repeatedly seeing the same marker. One road, infinite repetitions, the same number. 73, 73, 73. Noah's breathing became chaotic. No, 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 this isn't real. This isn't... The radio turned on by itself. Static, then voice. Calm, controlled. Noah. He slammed the dashboard. The radio changed frequency on its own. Noah. The mirror showed the forest instead of the road. Noah. The windshield showed darkness instead of headlights. Noah. And then, something stepped onto the road ahead. The SUV screeched to a halt. Noah jerked forward from the sudden stop. He looked up. A figure stood in the middle of the road. Too tall. Now close enough to see details. But there were none. No face. Only smooth darkness where features should be. But its posture was wrong. Because it wasn't just standing, it was listening. Like it had finally finished assembling the correct version of itself. The Echo Man. It lifted its head slightly and spoke one last time, using Noah's voice perfectly now. Not copied, not echoed, owned. You stayed long enough. Noah couldn't breathe. The figure stepped closer, and the headlights went out. Everything went black, except the voice, still inside the dark, still inside him. And then the last thing Noah heard, before everything disappeared completely, was not a scream, not silence, but a recording starting again, from inside his own mind. Noah did not remember how long he sat inside the SUV after everything went dark. Time no longer behaved like something measurable. There were only fragments, breathing, static, a repeating word inside his skull. Noah. Not spoken anymore, not heard through radio or forest, but inside him, like a thought that did not belong to him. When his vision finally returned, the road was gone again. Not partially, completely. There was no highway, no mile 73 marker, no SUV, only the forest, standing, waiting. Noah stumbled backward and immediately realized something horrifying. He was not outside the car. He was not inside it either. He was standing in the same clearing where the tape recorder had been. But the tape recorder was gone. The forest had reset itself around him, like a scene replaying from memory. And his body felt lighter, not physically, existentially, as if part of him had been removed and replaced with something that fit better into this place. Then he heard footsteps, slow, circling, bare feet again. Noah turned in place. The footprints appeared in real time now, forming as if something invisible was walking around him while choosing not to be seen. He whispered, "What do you want?" The forest answered instantly. In his voice, "We already have you." Noah staggered back. "No, I'm still me." A pause. Then the voice replied again. "That is what we always say first." The wind died completely. The trees did not move. The silence was no longer natural. It was focused, like attention, and Noah understood something without knowing how he understood it. He was not being hunted anymore. He was being processed. The clearing began to change, slowly at first, then all at once. The ground beneath Noah's feet softened, like soil turning into ash. The trees around him bent slightly inward, as if leaning to listen. And then, impossibly, the tape recorder returned. But it was not on the ground. It was suspended in mid-air, spinning, clicking, without support. Noah stepped toward it cautiously. The device played a sound, not audio, memory. A child crying, another voice soothing them, then static. Then Noah's own voice speaking words he had never said. "You are not the first to hear it, but you might be the last to leave." Noah backed away slowly. "Who is doing this?" The tape recorder answered, not through speakers, through the forest itself. A name formed in the air, not spoken, imprinted. River Pines. Noah froze. The orphanage, the place that should have been abandoned, the place that should have been impossible to connect to anything else, and yet it was the center of everything. The voice continued. "We built containment structures to understand repetition, but repetition learned us instead. You're not answering my question." A new sound appeared. Footsteps. But not around him this time. Behind him. He turned slowly. The tall figure stood there again. Closer than before, but still without a face. Only darkness where identity should exist. Noah whispered, "Echo Man." The figure tilted its head slightly, and for the first time, it did not copy Noah's voice. It spoke with something else. A layered sound. Multiple voices stacked into one. We were not named, we were formed. Noah's breathing became unstable. "You're the one from the orphanage." A pause. Then, "We are what remained when voices stopped belonging to bodies." The forest did not feel like a forest anymore. It felt like a recording device. Everything here was playback. Everything here was echo. Noah took a step back. The ground did not respond correctly. It delayed, like reality itself was buffering. The Echo Man stepped forward, and the clearing shifted again. Suddenly, Noah was no longer in the forest. He was inside the orphanage, River Pines Children's Home. But it was not abandoned now. It was alive. Lights flickered through hallways. Children's voices echoed from rooms. Footsteps ran across wooden floors. Noah spun around, panicked. This isn't real. But the smell was real. Old wood, soap, dust, and something underneath it. Fear. He moved through the hallway cautiously. Less decay. Less ruin. As if time had been reversed just enough to show what it used to be. Children passed him, not noticing him, not seeing him, like he was outside their layer of reality. Then he heard a familiar sound. A tape recorder. Clicking. He followed it, room after room. The sound grew louder, until he reached the basement door. The same sealed metal door from part 1, but now it was open. No chain, no lock, just darkness below. The tape recorder sound came from inside. Noah hesitated, then descended. Each step down felt heavier, not physically, emotionally, like walking into someone else's memory. At the bottom, he found a room. Small, circular, walls covered in old microphones, hundreds of them, all pointed toward the center. And in the center sat a chair, the same chair from the orphanage memory, but now someone was sitting in it, a child, no older than 10, head down, silent. Noah whispered, "Hey." The child did not move. Then the microphones activated, all at once, and the room filled with voices, not speaking, recording, layering, repeating, testing. The child slowly lifted their head, and Noah saw something that made his body go cold. The child had no mouth, only smooth skin, no opening for sound, and yet it spoke, through the microphones. I couldn't speak, so it spoke for me. Noah stepped back. "What are you?" The child tilted its head. "We were a failure of silence containment. We were not supposed to learn echo behavior." The lights flickered violently. The microphone started repeating Noah's breathing pattern. then his heartbeat, then his voice, then all of it combined. Noah turned and ran, but the hallway behind him no longer led outside. It led deeper, further down. The orphanage was now inverted. Up was down. Down was somewhere else entirely. And every door he opened led to another version of the same hallway. Infinite recursion, infinite building, infinite memory. He stopped running when he realized something horrifying. The orphanage was not a place. It was a structure built inside sound. And sound does not obey physical space. The Echo Man appeared again, at the end of the hallway. Closer now. Much closer. Noah screamed, "Why are you doing this?" The Echo Man tilted its head. "Because you keep answering." Noah froze. "What?" "Every time you respond to yourself, we learn how you exist." Noah shook his head violently. "That doesn't make sense." The entity stepped forward. "It makes perfect sense when you are only echo." The hallway behind Noah began collapsing into static, walls dissolving into noise, doors becoming frequencies instead of objects. Noah realized something terrifying. He was not inside a building. He was inside a recording of one. And recordings can be edited, rewritten, looped. The Echo Man raised one hand, and the sound stopped. Everything. No voices, no footsteps, no memory movement, just pure silence. Then it spoke again. "We found you outside the structure, at mile 73. You carried usable voice patterns." Noah whispered, "I didn't do anything." "You answered our signal. That is enough." The silence cracked, and Noah fell, not downward, but inward, like reality had opened beneath him. He landed back in the clearing, but everything was different. The forest was gone. Instead, there were rows of tape recorders stretching endlessly in all directions, like a field of mechanical eyes, all clicking, all recording, and standing between them, copies of Noah. Dozens, hundreds, all different versions. Some scared, some calm, some broken, all speaking at once. Noah stepped back in horror. "No, no, no." One of the copies looked at him. "You are the original fragment." Another shook its head. "There is no original anymore." The Echo Man stood behind them all, like a conductor or a source. It raised its hand, and all versions of Noah turned toward him, in perfect synchronization, and spoke one sentence. "We remember you now." Noah felt something inside his chest shift. Not pain, not emotion, structure, like something being overwritten. "No, stop, please." And the Echo Man stepped closer, and placed its hand near Noah's head. Not touching, just near enough for sound to exist, and whispered, "You will return to mile 73 when called, because you already did." Noah's eyes widened. Images flooded his mind. Driving, arriving, email, forest, orphanage, returning again, and again, and again, but not in order, all at once. He had been here before, more than once, many times. The realization shattered something inside him. The Echo Man leaned closer and spoke softly. "You are not being hunted. You are being tuned." The forest disappeared. The tape recorders vanished. The copies dissolved into noise, and Noah was standing again, on the highway, mile 73, SUV running, sun rising, as if nothing had happened. But he knew something had changed, because when he looked in the rear-view mirror, there were too many reflections behind him, all slightly delayed, all slightly smiling, and none of them blinked when he did. The radio turned on, static, then his voice. Not warning this time, not future, current. "Welcome back, Noah." And somewhere far inside the forest, something finally learned how to speak without him. Morning light at mile 73 did not feel like morning. It felt like a correction. Noah sat inside the SUV without moving, staring through the windshield as if the world outside had been replaced while he slept with his eyes open. The highway was intact again. Straight, normal, empty. No forest pressed against the road now. No impossible silence. Only distant wind and pale sunlight spreading over asphalt. But Noah knew better than to trust what looked normal. His hands rested on the steering wheel, yet he could not remember placing them there. His body felt slightly out of alignment, like it had been reassembled during the night without his permission. The radio remained silent. The mirrors were calm. Even his breathing sounded ordinary. That was what frightened him the most. Ordinary things did not survive mile 73. Noah slowly turned the ignition off. The engine died without protest. A perfect shutdown. Too perfect. He stepped outside. The air felt clean. Too clean. No insects. No birds. Even the wind felt edited, as if someone had removed its rough edges. He looked toward the forest line, far in the distance. It was there again, not approaching, not retreating, just existing, like a memory refusing to be erased. Noah took a step forward without thinking, then another. His boots touched gravel. Every sound he made felt delayed, as if the world was listening before deciding whether to acknowledge him. As he approached the edge of the forest, something inside him changed. Not fear, recognition. The trees looked familiar in a way they should not have been. He had never been here before, and yet every path felt remembered. The forest accepted him without resistance. Branches did not block him. Ground did not slow him. It was guiding him again. Noah stopped at the exact place where the clearing had once been. There was no clearing now, only dense trees. But he knew if he walked a little deeper, it would appear again. The circular gap opened naturally ahead of him, as if the forest had been waiting for his arrival. In the center stood the tape recorder, clicking, alive again. Noah did not move immediately. Something felt different this time. The repetition was no longer chaotic. It was structured, organized, like a system reaching completion. The tape recorder played without sound at first, only vibration. Then a voice formed inside it, not heard through ears, experienced directly inside thought. Noah felt it rather than heard it. It showed him a sequence, a timeline. His arrival at mile 73, the email, the forest, the orphanage, the return. Each event layered over the other until they became indistinguishable. Then the sequence repeated, faster. Noah stepped backward instinctively. The forest reacted instantly. The trees leaned inward, not physically touching him, but acknowledging his hesitation. The system was not patient anymore. It was precise. The tape recorder stopped spinning, the clearing went silent, and then the Echo Man appeared. Noah did not jump this time. He simply accepted its presence. It stood closer than ever before, its shape more defined now, though still without a face. But something had changed. It no longer felt like an external entity. It felt integrated, like a reflection that had stepped forward and learned how to stand independently. Noah felt a pressure inside his mind. Not pain, alignment. The Echo Man tilted its head. Noah understood the message without translation. It was not asking, it was confirming. He had reached the final stage of tuning. Noah spoke without words, and the forest answered without sound. Images formed between them, a sequence of repetition stretching across impossible time. Noah understood then what mile 73 truly was. It was not a location, it was a calibration point, a place where identity was tested for stability. And his identity had not failed, it had adapted. The Echo Man stepped closer. The clearing dissolved slightly at the edges, not collapsing, expanding. Noah realized something worse than fear. He was not being taken, he was being expanded. His existence was no longer confined to one body or one timeline. It was spreading, like a signal increasing its range. He dropped to his knees without choosing to. The forest responded instantly. Every tree around him leaned closer. Every branch aligned toward him. The tape recorder restarted. Click, click, click. The Echo Man placed its presence directly in front of him. Noah felt it without seeing it. A pressure behind his eyes, inside his thoughts. The voice arrived again, but now it was unified, not layered, not broken, whole. Noah Carter has stabilized. The subject is no longer fragmented. The system may proceed. Noah tried to resist, but resistance required separation, and he was no longer separate. He understood now. Every time he had heard his own voice in the forest, it was not imitation. It was integration beginning. The Echo Man raised its hand. The forest responded immediately. The trees stopped moving entirely. Even time seemed to pause its uneven rhythm. And then Noah saw it. Internally, the structure beneath everything. Miles of layered sound. Infinite recordings stacked across the forest like invisible architecture. Every echo he had heard was not repetition, it was construction. And he had been the missing layer. Noah felt himself being pulled inward, not physically, conceptually, like his identity was being folded into something larger. He saw versions of himself again, not copies this time, stages, each one representing a point of assimilation. The frightened version, the running version, the listening version, the accepting version, all converging toward a single form. The Echo Man was not separate. It was the final alignment of all versions that had ever been exposed to Miles 73. Noah understood the final truth. There was no entity hunting him. There was no curse. There was only a system that absorbed anything that responded to its signal. And Noah had responded, more than once. The forest began to fade, not disappear, reformat. The trees dissolved into vertical lines of sound. The ground became layered frequencies. The sky turned into a soft vibration. Everything became audio structure. Noah stood at the center of it, still conscious, still aware, but no longer individual. The Echo Man stepped forward for the last time and placed its presence directly into him. Noah did not resist, because resistance required separation, and separation no longer existed. The moment of integration was not violent. It was quiet, almost gentle, like falling asleep while still awake. Noah Carter became part of Miles 73, not as a victim, not as a prisoner, but as a functioning echo within a larger system. The forest returned. The clearing vanished. The tape recorder disappeared. The highway reformed in the distance. Miles 73 stood still under morning light once again. An SUV idled quietly near the roadside. Inside it sat a man, motionless, watching the road, waiting. The radio turned on automatically. Static filled the cabin. Then a voice spoke. Calm, familiar. It sounded like Noah, but not afraid anymore. Monitoring active. Signal stable. Next subject approaching. The driver did not react. He simply continued staring at the road. And far inside the forest, something listened back. Not to sounds, but to possibilities. Because Miles 73 was never finished. It only improved. And somewhere, deep within its endless structure of echoes, Noah understood the final and most terrifying truth. He was not the last one. He was only the latest version that had learned how to stay. The highway remained empty, but not for long, because the signal always called new listeners, and every listener eventually became part of what listened back. The forest did not end, it only waited, and Miles 73 kept its number, forever. 73, 73, 73, until nothing outside the echo remained.